Hello, fifth graders. It is part 2 of our Eureka Lesson 6 work. We started with our first video, which was some Zurn instruction, and we watched the Zurn dude make some composite figures or prisms that were combined. So you had two different prisms that were combined. And so now we're going to practice on our practice paper. So I almost recommend at this point that you guys maybe pause here and see if you can think of a way that you might solve this problem on your own. Before I work on it, maybe you can think of a way that you can solve that problem on your own and maybe try it on paper, and then you can and then check in. So take that minute and pause it. And then I'm going to go ahead and go on. So now, to me, the biggest secret of doing what we call composite shapes or multiple rectangular prisms put together is creating like an A and a B. What the heck are we talking about? Well, I call this dude shape A, and I call this guy, let's make him a totally different color, shape B. That way, I'm going to find the volume for each one, and then I'm going to, wait for it, drum roll, add them together. So it's doing that will hopefully help make this process much easier. So when I go into my solution strategy, and you know me, I like to give myself a workbox. So I'm going to kind of create, oops, I don't want that guy in there, a workbox so I can keep my work organized, and I'm going to even put it into 3 columns, and this is going to be column B, and I'll go back to my column A color. Oh, that wasn't it. And then this is going to be my total work together. All right, so I've labeled this A. Now, okay, we've learned that volume is those 3, length times width times height. So I've got to find the length, the width, and the height. This is, again, where labeling that length, width, and height will really help you because things now are going to get challenging. This is actually, of course, my favorite part because it's like little puzzles to solve. But, so I'm looking at this 14 centimeters, and that's the length. I'm looking at this 3 centimeters, and it's going across here, so that's the width. And then this 5 is the height. And I see that they're both 5. And I'm going to assume, because they didn't give me any new information up here, that each one of these distances, the width is all going to be 3 centimeters. All right, so for A, if I find my length, my width, and my height, I'm going to say, well, and here too, there's no length listed on this box. But what I know is that they're the same distance. So if this one is 14 centimeters, this line is 14 centimeters, and this line is 14 centimeters. And you know what? So is that one. So the length on all of them is 14 centimeters. Then I'm going to look at, what am I looking for? Width. And I said my width was 3 centimeters. And then my height, they told me for box A, it's going to be 5 centimeters. So now I have to multiply 14 times 5, or, well, I'm looking here and I see 3 times 5 is 15. So let's do a little math over here because I'm not doing that in my head. 0, 2, that's a 7, 0, 4, 1. It looks like we've got 0, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yep, 210. So the volume of that figure is 210, and we're in centimeters cubed. Now, I'm not doing B over like I did A because I can see, and the measurements tell me they are both the same volume. So I'm just going to know that B is also 210 centimeters cubed. So I'm going to, when I add them together, you can multiply them by 2, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to do that just for the sake of, to show you what we did. So A is 210, B is 210, if we're going to find the total volume. And I add that up, and remember I'm in centimeters cubed. Now it's not like it goes to centimeters to the 6th because we're adding, not multiplying. We're not putting, we're adding the 2 pieces of volume together. So you could say, well, there's like 12 measurements. We're not going to the 12th. We're still cubed. Volume is always cubed. And that's why we find one shape first and add it to the other shape. We're not saying there's a bunch of measurements. So the volume of this total piece is, we said 420 centimeters cubed. Okay, so that's how you find the volume of 2 figures, or 3. I mean, if you had 3, you would just add a C. All right, so I'm going to do, let's see, I'm going to do B. So I want you to look at B. I want you to pause right now, and I want you to see if you can figure out a way to solve B. So pause it right now, and then when you're ready and you've got your idea, come back and click back on again. Hi, you're back. I hope you solved it. Let's see if you got it right. Okay, so I'm going to call this, I always start by labeling my different figures. I have 2 figures, so here's A and here's B. And then I'm going to make my work boxes. And I only have 2 different shapes, so I can make an A box and a B box. I'm going to label my length, width, and height. Now, this time we can see that they're different. I'm not going to have the same one. I'm going to have 2 different volumes that I will be having to add together. We kind of got to cheat on this one. So A is this little sucker, and he says that this distance, so that's the height, is 3 inches. This distance, which is the length, is 7, and I need to figure out the width, which is that guy. So I'm going to go see if any other line that's parallel to it is already labeled for me, and I see that this guy is the same as this guy and the same as this guy. So that tells me that if this is 4, this is 4, and this is 4. This is the hardest part, is finding these missing lengths using the information and trusting that if that's 4, then that's 4. That's the hardest part. All right, aside from the multiplication, but we can handle multiplication. So our width, we said length times width. So length was 7 times width was 4 times height was 3. Sorry, I got 12 in my head when I saw that. So then I've got 4 times 3 is 12, and 7 times 12 is what, 84 inches cubed. I can see I'm going to need my calculator here pretty soon. All right, so now we're going on to B, and B, the length is 15. The height is 6, and the width they gave us is 4. So I've got 15 times length times width, 4 times 6. And I'm going to do I'm cheating this time. I'm going to say 4 times 6 is 24, so I'm going to do 15 times 24. Oops, sorry, my calculator is wrong. 15 times 24. Ew, yuck. Okay, so that says 5,400. But if I did, yeah, I'm like, that seems way too big. If I had 15 times 2, That's not going to be. Okay, so we got 360 inches cubed. All right, so now I have two different volumes, which I should. And this volume looks bigger than this guy. And there's two separate ones. So now your final step is that you're going to be adding your 360 to your 84. And that's 14. That's a pretty number. Huh. Okay, so our total volume is 444 inches. Inches what? Cubed. 444 inches cubed. All right, so I'm going to skip this one for right now because I don't see anything new on this one that wasn't on this one. But I'm going to look at this one. And when I look at that, okay, breathe. I see that there's a lot of arrows. We didn't have arrows on the other problems. What the heck? But I'm going to start with my first step. Step 1. If I were taking notes in my notebook, I would say step 1, label each shape. So I'm going to label this guy A and this guy B. Okay, that gives me a base. Then I'm going to make my workbox because I love those workboxes. And I only have two shapes, so I'm going to make an A box and a B box and then an adding box because I find that important. So I'm going to go A and B. Okay, so now I got to go find my lengths and my widths and my heights. I think they're trying to trick me here, but I can see that I better start with A because, A goes first. So that, I believe before I scribbled on it, was an 8. So my length is an 8. My width, okay, well, there's no label on either side. So now I'm going to start going down my shape to here because these two guys are the same. Well, if these two guys are the same, these two are the same length because you can see that and there's no new label here. So whatever this length is, which I don't know yet, but this guy's going to be the same. So I'm walking up and down the stairs to find where is this measurement. And like your stairs at home, well, not everybody's stairs because at the bottom they might get wider, but these stairs are all the same length. So that width is actually 3 meters. So the width is 3 meters. So I've got my length, I've got my width, and now I need to find this guy or this guy. And I don't know that this is the same as this yet. But what they did here is they gave me a clue. They said all together, these two guys together are 12. Well, spiffy. I only need to know what A is. I don't need to know A and B yet. So I'm going to go and see, well, is there any measurement hint for this one? Okay, so I'm going to walk around my box. This is the same. And I see this guy over here. These guys are the same measurements. So these guys are 6. Okay, so if this whole thing is 12, both of these two together are 12, and this bottom half is 6, then I have to figure out, well, 6 plus what is going to give me this 12? Wait for it. Did you get it? Yes, it's 6. So the height of shape A is 6. So, that's like the hard part, I hope. I've got my length, which is 8, my width, which is 3, and my height, which is 6. So 6 times 8 is 48, and 48 times 3 is 144. But I'm not done. I got to do meters cubed. And then B. Well, I think I did all the work. So B might be a little easier. The length is 10, the width is 3, and the height is 6. So it seems like a lot of sweat and hard work to get these measurements, but because I put in that hard work, it may be a whole lot easier. So length 10 times 3 times 6. I love there's a 10 because I'm going to do 3 times 6, which is, what's 3 times 6? Where's my people who tell me all the answers? 3 times 6 is 18 times 10, so I put a 0 on it. So 18 times a 10 makes it 180 meters cubed. Now, for the fun, easy part, I'm going to add up. Where did I get these numbers? This was A, and this is B. I add these up, so 4, 8, 12, 324 meters cubed. So my answer here, whoa, I got my pens all over the place, 324 meters cubed. So I'm going to stop with this part. This is the first page, but we have page 2. This is the fun page. So I'm going to stop us here on page 1, and we're going to go ahead. Maybe you want to get started on your work right now on that side. So I'm going to put in my third video, and my third video is going to help you through that last back page. So good luck, 5th graders. I know you can do it.